Welcome. I'm Clive Vanell, New York State Assembly member for the 33rd Assembly District in Queens. And I also serve as the chair for the subcommittee on Internet and New Technologies in the New York State Assembly. And today I'm going to mention and announce the highlights for the 21-22 New York State budget. The enacted budget reimagines, rebuilds, and renews New York in the wake of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. This video is going to be a little long because we're going to go over a number of highlights in the budget. But first, let me talk about the revenue. In revenue, we struck a balance on revenue. The budget includes new revenue resources that provides much needed revenue to make investments that will support New York in its ongoing response to the pandemic and to support our recovery coming back. We fought really hard to get federal funding, which deploys the first $5.5 billion of the $12.6 billion provided by the Federal American Rescue Plan of 2021. The funds are integrated throughout the budget in accordance with the available federal guidelines. We also secured support for local governments. The budget includes an appropriation for the authority for local governments to receive federal support and a historic package of $10.8 billion for federal aid for localities. In addition, we enacted and implemented a personal income tax surcharge on the highest earners through tax year 2027 that sets a top rate of 10.9% for all filers earning more than $25 million. This surcharge raises the budget by raises $2.8 billion in fiscal year 2022, rising up to $3.3 billion in 2023. We also implemented a surcharge on corporate taxes to increase the business income tax rate from 6.5% to 7.25% for 3 years through year 2023 for taxpayers with business income greater than $5 million. It also increases the capital-based method for liability estimation of 0.1875% from the 0.025% rate of the effective year. Another way that we raised revenue was we enacted and authorized mobile sports wagering. Once fully phased in, the legalization of sports wagering will provide more than $500 million of much needed revenue for the state to help rebuild from COVID-19. We've done a lot in education. We put almost $30 billion in school aid. We put $13 billion in federal aid to public schools. $500 million in emergency federal assistance to non-public schools. We also authorized aid for pandemic-related school district transportation costs. In higher education, we put over $7.7 billion. We used federal stimulus aid to support our neediest students. We provided record support in higher education opportunity programs with close to $250 million in state funding to provide academic and financial support to economically and educationally disadvantaged students. We also increased the maximum TAP award to $500. We enacted the TAP Gap funding plan, and we also increased community colleges by $50 per student with the funding floor. In healthcare, we have to make sure that we defeat COVID. So in healthcare, with respect to telehealth, the pandemic has transformed the healthcare delivery system for accessing healthcare. So in the budget, we increase access to services through comprehensive reform by allowing certain unlicensed staff to deliver substance use disorder services and expand the covered telehealth providers. We also expanded the leading COVID-19 diagnostic capacity. In healthcare, we also launched a New York State infectious disease resilience commercialization fund that will create a new $40 million resiliency fund led by the Empire State Development and advised by the New York State Department of Health to help fight its infectious disease. We've also worked to eliminate healthcare premiums. We enhanced the social services crisis intervention. We also established urgent care centers for mental health and addiction services. We also have to make sure that we work to jumpstart the economy. So we put $1 billion in small business and arts relief recovery assistance. We also have, part of the grant also, we work to do a restaurant return to work tax credit where we provide up to $35 million in tax credits to support restaurants that were hit hard by the pandemic. We support the arts by putting tax credits of up to $100 million in tax credits for the arts. We also put in funds to educate and train workers for the in-demand jobs. We also did a program to provide priority access for nurses in SUNY and CUNY programs. We work to make sure we put in funding to support excluded workers. We put $2.1 billion for workers that did not get cash payments due to economic loss for COVID-19, and we put $2.1 billion for that. We put funds to continue support tourism. We also expanded opportunities for MWBE programs, where we set the utilization goal of state contracting at 30%. We've also put in funds for recovery grants for nonprofits and cultural organizations. We also enacted an employer child care credit. We've also constructed a green energy transmission superhighway. So we will construct a new green energy superhighway of 250 miles. And it will be a $2 billion project. For housing, we did affordable homeless housing capital plan, where the budget continues with $20 billion of comprehensive 5-year investment to create and preserve over 100,000 units of affordable housing and create 6,000 new units of supportive housing. We also support new homeless housing, where in the budget we continue to fund $128 million for the homeless housing and assistance program. We also provided $2.4 billion to protect renters. We also provided funds for public housing remediation and adaptive reuse for affordable housing program. We've also done a lot for capital projects, where we're going to put the Empire State Station complex. We've also put funds for the High Line extension to the Moynihan Station. We've also put in funds to support parks and capital projects. We've also put $500 million for a clean water infrastructure investment. And in the budget, we've also addressed many systemic injustices. We did police reform where in order for certain municipalities to receive continuous funding, they have to report their criminal justice reform to the governor in order to continue their funding. So we also did a program where we strengthened the police profession by hiring background investigation standards for police officers through the establishment of a certification process. The budget has many effects. Also, with respect to technology, and again, I'm the chair of Internet and New Technologies, we have the first in the nation $15 affordable broadband plan for low-income families. We're also doing a study to find out where the accessibility and affordability for every household in New York State exists. And there is a $15 million program to close the digital divide in local communities that will be providing grants for organizations to help with churches, schools, institutions to be able to close the digital divide. If you have any questions, contact our office at 718-479-2333, or you can contact us directly on social media. Thank you.